One of my cousins graduating from 9th grade couldn't enroll to the public school he wanted, and he wasn't alone in this. Lots of other students share the same fate. This was because of the zoning system. In my hometown, frustrated and angry parents took the streets, protesting about the new policy supposedly used to bring fairness to public education. This is the government's zoning system. It is constructed by a 500-meter radius from the State Senior High School. As you can see, lots of areas are not covered by the diagram. Meanwhile, in class, we were discussing about the Voronoi diagram being used for the toxic waste dump problem, and we thought that this topic could help the zoning system. Greetings everyone, my name is Kayla.
And my name is Kayla.
And we present to you our research in using Voronoi diagram as a better zoning system. The goal of this research is to construct a better zoning system by using the Voronoi diagram so that every student can have an equal chance to go to school. Next, we want to find the proportion of grade 9 junior high school students to the capacity of grade 10 state senior high schools in the divided areas. Last, we want to determine the location for a new school to be built or an established one to be relocated to equalize the proportion. There are three main steps in the methodology of this research. First, we want to construct the Voronoi diagram to divide the areas in Surabaya, Central Jakarta, and Kupang. Second, we want to calculate the proportion of the number of state junior high school students to the number of state senior high school students. Third, we want to find the furthest distance from the school with the highest ratio to the furthest to determine the location to build a new school. So, why did we choose these three cities? We chose Surabaya because it is our hometown, Jakarta because it is our capital, and because both of those are metropolitan cities with very high populations, we chose a contrasting one, which is Kupang. As you can see, the population density between Jakarta, Surabaya, and Kupang is very different. To build a Voronoi diagram, we must first understand how to build a perpendicular bisector. If I have point A and point B, and I live here, we must first connect point A to point B, and then we find its midpoint and bisect it with a 90-degree angle line. With the help of the perpendicular bisector, you can now clearly see that I am closer to point B. This is an example of a three-point Voronoi diagram. If, example, I have point A, B, and C, and I live here, you can't really see which point I'm closer to. But once we connect all these points, point A to point B, B to C, and C to A, and then bisect it with a 90-degree angle line, you can now clearly see that I am closest to point C. If I wanted to add, say, point X, this is what the diagram would look like with the help of the incremental algorithm. To construct the Voronoi diagram, we use GeoGebra, a dynamic mathematics software. First, we find the map with the exact locations of state senior high schools plotted, and then we open the software, we insert the map, and we construct the Voronoi diagram there. To find the proportions, we divide the number of grade 9 state junior high school students to the capacity of grade 10 state senior high schools. And to find the furthest distance, we use the distance formula.
This diagram shows the result of the Voronoi diagram that we have constructed using GeoGebra. This shows the Voronoi diagram of Surabaya, this shows the Voronoi diagram of Central Jakarta, and this shows the Voronoi diagram of Kupang. This table and graph show the result of the proportion. From the table and graph, we can see that the proportion of students is still very far from being equal. In Surabaya, the highest ratio is 5.36 and 5.32 in Zone K and Zone O. This means that one student will have to compete with about 5 other students in order to get into the school. But on the other hand, the lowest ratio is only 0.36 in Zone G. This means that all of the students can directly get into the school because they'll only need to compete with 0.36 student, which is not even one student. In Central Jakarta, the highest ratio is 3.83 in Zone H, and the lowest ratio is only 0.79 in Zone E. In Kupang is a bit different. Kupang is a remote city, therefore the concentration there is much lower. The highest ratio is only 1.93 in Zone D, and the lowest ratio is 0.04 in Zone I. After knowing the result of the proportion, building or relocating a new school is highly recommended. By using the distance formula, our calculation shows that in Surabaya, the new school should be built or relocated to vertex C because it is the furthest from the site, which is SM 917. And in Senal Jakarta, the new school should be built or relocated to Vertex A because it is the furthest from the site, which is SMA 5. So in conclusion, from the Voronoi diagram made, students can determine to which state senior high school they should enroll in. The proportion of students shows that the chance of students enrolling to state senior high school is still very far from being equal. Therefore, a new school must be built or relocated at the furthest vertex from the school that have the highest concentration. We would like to recommend that schools should be equally spread so that every student may have an equal opportunity enrolling in school. Bigger schools that hold more capacity of students must be allocated to areas that have high concentration, or new schools should be built in those areas. To improve our research, we would like to consider the capacity of each state senior high school to construct the Voronoi diagram, which will require a multiplicatively weighted Voronoi diagram to help equalize the proportion.
This is the government's zoning system. As you can see, there are lots of areas that are still not covered by the diagram, while this is the zoning system that we've constructed using the Voronoi diagram. As you can see in this diagram, all the areas are covered. So from the tool we made, we believe that it will help solve the unfairness occurring, and we hope that problems like this will stop. To end this presentation, here's a quote from William J. Clinton. "Education is not a privilege, it is a right."